Good evening, all of you. Welcome to yet another session for parents, the Epsilon India 2023. We have two amazing speakers who are here to interact with all of us today. I'll introduce both of them together because some of the things that they have done are quite common, and then I'll introduce the rest of it separately. So we have Professor Anup Dixit. He is a faculty at Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Chennai. And we have Professor Siddhi Pathak, who is a faculty at Chennai Mathematical Institute. What is common between both of them? Of course, they are faculty, they teach math. They both were students at CMI, and they both did their PhD from University of, no, not both from the University of Toronto. I think Anup from the University of Toronto and Siddhi from Kingston. But their PhD guides were brothers, Kumar Murthy and Ramu Murthy. And both are doing research in number theory. Anup is into analytic number theory and Siddhi is into transcendental number theory. And both of them are deeply passionate about math as well as math education. And they were here to interact with our students also from RAMTP. Siddhi is also the national coordinator for the Asian Oceanian Women in Mathematics. Is that correct, Siddhi? Yes. So that's a body that focuses on empowering more women in STEM and addressing the challenges that they might be facing while they are pursuing STEM education. And Anup is also involved in a lot of activities related to math. Both of them have got a lot of fellowships and awards within, even though both of them are young, there is a list of awards and fellowships that they have received. They are referees for a lot of journals and they are involved neck deep in math. And they both are from, live in Chennai. In fact, they live in the same house. They are husband and wife. So there is a lot of things that is common to both of them. And we thought, what better, who better can we invite? And yes, I just met them today morning and asked if you can kind of come, and we have a group of wonderful parents who might be interested to interact with all of you and both of you and learn about certain things that they may have pressing questions on. So with this short introduction, I'll directly jump into the discussion. What we'll do is we'll try to keep this as a free-flowing discussion. So it's more of a Q&A kind of thing where you can ask questions and both Anup and Siddhi can answer. But to get some kind of context, maybe I'll shoot some rapid fire questions to both of them. We haven't discussed on anything, so this is quite impromptu. And feel free to say pass for any question that you may feel like passing. Okay. All right. So first, I'll ask Anup. Anup, can you share about your journey into mathematics and what brought you to mathematics, and were you always determined to become a mathematician? From any age?
Thanks. Thanks, Vinay, for this very kind introduction. And I do not think we are as prolific as you made us sound to be. But okay, so the way I got into math was my journey was quite smooth. I do not think I had to face there was any particular incident that got me interested in math. I was good at mathematics from my childhood, but then we have a different perspective of what math is when we were younger. But I got into these Olympiads, these competitions that we have nationwide and internationally. And at a very young age, in fact, in class 6th standard onwards, I was already aware of these contests. And so I slowly got into it. And then through those platforms, so they have the summer programs, etc., just like we are having in CMI, but that's a little bit more focused. And then we got into this, that's where I heard about Chennai Mathematical Institute. And got into CMI, and then really enjoyed doing mathematics. But it wasn't the case that from the very beginning I knew I wanted to do math. It slowly. So there was points when I was interested in other things. While even studying in CMI, I also liked computer science. I could have probably pursued a career in theoretical computer science, which is not too far from math. But then I ended up doing math, and I really like what I do. And then we went for a PhD and some postdocs. And I'm very happy to be back in India. And yeah, so it's quite a smooth journey. I don't think I have had certain incidents, but yes, there were of course role models who have had impact in my life. One of them is my father, who himself was very interested in math at a younger age, but again different type of math. But he was there were quite a few things which we have learned together, so that we shared with each other. And then as I grew up, I met several teachers who had a significant impact on my journey.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that journey, Anu. May I pass the same question to Siddhi? Siddhi, was your journey also pretty much straightforward like Anu's?
Yes, so it was straightforward, but probably with some turns along the way. For me, I was always interested in some competitive exams. I think I used to give some exam or the other starting from second standard, and Maharashtra has no shortage of competitive exams. Every day you hear new competitive exams coming up. And then my father again was one of my role models, where he would also be sort of interested in all these things. So after his office, he would come back and sit with me, and together we would sort of get into the problem solving for these competitive exams. And then in fifth standard, so Maharashtra has this society called Ganit Adhyapak Mandal, and they conduct certain exams specially for mathematics, but something called non-routine mathematics, which is basically mathematics outside the school syllabus, something where you have to think rather than just apply formulas. And they conduct an exam called Ganit Pravinya and Ganit Pradnya for 5th and 8th standards. And then later on, there were also exams called Ganit Kaushalya for 6th standard, Ganit Naipunya for 9th standard, and Ganit Parangat for 10th standard. So these were specifically focused on math, and not the math that one would see every day, math that forced you to think. And I realized that I really enjoyed it. But at that time, there was no question of becoming a mathematician. I hardly knew what mathematician meant, or that you could pursue a career in math. So like every other kid in India, I went for IIT JEE coaching. So I was enrolled into M Prakash Academy in Pune, where I went for IIT JEE coaching. And fortunately, that academy is such that the way they train you in math is not the problem solving approach which several coaching centers take, but again they teach you how to think. Especially M Prakash sir, his focus is on thinking aspect. Even the calculus which we learned, very often calculus is taught as recipes or as formulae, but we learned the way calculus is taught in CMI. So that gave me also an idea of what mathematics is going forward. And I was really interested. But then I gave JEE like everybody else. Again, fortunately for me, there was a camp which was held in our college, which told us all the possibilities after 12th standard. And one of the things that they mentioned was Chennai Mathematical Institute. So that's the first time I came to know that there is an institute which allows you to do math. And I still did not know what it means to do math, but there is some institute which is not engineering institute. So I decided to give the entrance exam. It was one of the important alluring points was that it was held in IIT Powai, and I really wanted to visit IIT Powai. So I decided to give the exam, and there was no preparation involved. I just gave it because I just wanted to see what kind of questions they come up. I did not have any hope to qualify because I knew that they are very selective. So when the results came out, I got a decent JEE rank, but then I also got selected in this very prestigious and selective entrance exam. So after that, there was this 1 month where I fought with my father. He wanted me to go into engineering and pursue computer science at IIIT Hyderabad. So much so that he took me there to show me the campus and interact with the students, and told me things like, you will get a laptop, and then all those alluring things which did not matter to me. So after a lot of convincing and support from my teachers, my parents, I decided to then join CMI. Again, at that time, I had no clue what it means to become a mathematician. We had interacted with some students, but they basically said, oh, you can go abroad to do a PhD, or you can do PhD in TIFR in India. And then the opportunities afterwards are either you can do computer science, which then opens up the door to jobs in IT companies, or you can decide to pursue academia. So at that time, it was all open and I just joined. Then I later on realized what math is. And again, fortunately for me, I really liked the higher math as well. And so after that, I decided to pursue my PhD with Ramurthy in Canada, and then a postdoc in the US. And now I'm again very fortunate to have my husband, who is also a mathematician. So the mathematics continues in my life, and I am very happy with the way I am right.
Thank you, Siddhi, for sharing your journey as well. So it's interesting to see how both of you had different journeys, and Anup had more or less a smoother transition into pursuing mathematics, and you had your challenges, but then you bravely fought and conquered, and you found your place to pursue math.
Yeah, but I think an important point is that my parents eventually allowed me. And also, okay, one another point I'd like to mention is that until my PhD and so on, everything was fine. But later on, me being a girl, there were questions about, of course, when will you get married and when will you get settled? And then when I had to go for a postdoc, my parents said, until your PhD and so on, it is our decision. So meaning we give you the freedom to do what you want. But later on, after you get married, whether to do a postdoc or not is your husband's choice. And then I sort of really fought against that, in the sense of, I told them that that is not true. And then again, I was fortunate enough to find a husband who did not care, or in fact, who was more than happy that I was doing a postdoc and was in math. So
wow.
That's something, something that I'd like to mention.
No, I mean, these are very important points, and in any individual's life, I think even for boys, parents would be concerned after a point that, boss, when are you going to think about settling down in your life, and you cannot keep completely. So this is very interesting, and I think you already answered some questions that I had in mind, because many a times, especially for girls, these are crucial questions and genuine concerns that parents do have, right? So yes, so this is great. You both said that until you came to CMI, or even after coming to CMI, or even probably you completed your undergraduation, you weren't sure of what you wanted to do, whether to be in academia or to be in the industry, or what, math or CS. Is my understanding correct? You both were unsure.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
So being this unsure thing and not knowing what lies in future, was this how secure were both of you and your families about not being sure of what I'm going to do after this.
Yeah, so this is, I think there is some kind of a, like in our current world, we have this thing of controlling our future, which is a very delusional thing in my opinion. But in any case, there is no way a person in school can actually ever know what a particular job, which is not a routine job, uh, consists of. Like it is impossible for us to explain to even our parents what we do. It's not about just the math part that we do. I'm okay, you must be solving some problems or something like that. But no, there is some sort of a life in it that we are building, and it is more or less impossible to explain to someone who is not already a mathematician what we do. But having said that, when we joined when I joined CMI, for instance, I mean, just like Siddhi, I had other options, to go to engineering or to come to CMI. But I had by then decided that I will do math. So back then there were only two schools. One was ISI Bangalore, the other was CMI. I had already gotten into both, so I chose to come to CMI. But of course, when we joined, we had no clue. But at the same time, it is important to know that if you really know what you're going to do in the near future, even in the near future, it's no longer as exciting. And you can never predict. Things may always go south. But one of the reasons I came to CMI was that, oh, there is computer science. Maybe there would be job prospects, which may be true, but not in the sense that I understood it back then. But nowadays, the perspectives are completely changed. Industries, they are wildly looking for people who are good at math, because doing math at a higher level, it opens up a new dimension in your brain. You are intelligent enough, or you have experience enough to solve problems in ways that other people cannot comprehend, or you're not equipped to think in a certain way. So nowadays that problem is no longer there, because of, I feel there is more awareness now as compared to earlier. But but this uncertainty part, I think that will always remain. No, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow with me. So so that part is okay. As long as you're working, everything is going to work out fine, is what I feel. Maybe Siddhi has something to add to that.
I think you have covered most of the points. So uncertainty, I mean, it was there, but I never really had time to think about it. I mean, uh, we just did the next right thing. Like, this is in first year, I was not thinking about what I'm going to do 3 years afterwards. First year, I was worried about my exams, and then about summer projects, and then about more exams, and you just kind of go with the flow. So for me, that didn't really create any issues, the fact that there was some uncertainty. And for my parents, I think they just used to joke that if she does not get a job, then it's on her, because we really told her to do engineering, and she's doing math. So if she doesn't get a job, then she has to figure it out. So that was how it was.
Okay, so that was fun as well to hear. And I think, if just as a passing comment, I think when one starts working on some serious math problems, what you see ahead is uncertainty, and you have no idea when you are going to crack this. But then you eventually build up that kind of stamina to, okay, so we'll face it, we'll see how it comes, we'll play it by the ear. So I don't know whether that also helped in some unknown ways to deal with this uncertainty. So this is great to hear. Again, after completing your PhD, you had an option to go to the industry as well as coming to the academia, right? So
Yes, certainly. We didn't explore that option, but we have friends who did complete PhDs in math, physics, computer science, etc., and ended up in industry, and they are doing very well. So
So it's not that if one does get into PhD, then it is very likely that they may come to academia only and
No,
not
no,
the-
no, no, not at all, not at all. But the thing is, there will always be that sense of dissatisfaction that, oh, we did this, but we ended up in industry. That is a different, that's a different problem altogether.
That's a dissatisfaction. I like that.
but generally, after you have reached a level where you are doing a PhD, let's say in a good school, in a good university, you already know that if you have reached that level, then you can do a PhD. And if you are still not, because these days things are very competitive, especially in academia, if you are not able to get a job or things like that, then sometimes you may be forced to go into industry, which is what happens most of the time. And then you may have a little bit of dissatisfaction. But then the other brownie points are you will make a lot more money. You will have so there's a, it's a balance. So
Nice. So what lured both of you into
Also,
academia? Yes, please.
just one thing that I want to add. People don't go into PhD knowing that you want to go into corporate. If you want to go into corporate, then I don't think going in for a PhD is a good idea, because there are certain different kinds of prerequisites that you need before you pursue a PhD. I mean, PhD is a long, difficult and strenuous process. It's 5 years of your life. If you previously already know that you don't want to pursue academia, then it is going to be hard to keep yourself motivated during a PhD. And also, I think the industry jobs, if you join sooner, probably you get more time in the industry. So I think perhaps even after masters, one can explore that option. So you don't need a PhD to go into corporate. But after a PhD, suppose you feel that you don't want to pursue academia, having seen how academia would be during your PhD, then you have the option of transferring to industry. So in industry should, I think, be thought of as an option rather than PhD being necessary for industry.
Okay, that makes sense. I think Hari has asked one question in the group, PhD train. Okay, that's a comment. Yes. So I'll ask one more questions, and after that, parents, whoever has questions, you can do a fastest hand first, and we'll go by whoever raises hands first. I mean, feel free to ask any questions except for the CTC. Just joking. So I'm sorry, I just sorry, you were saying about just had a pressing question in my mind, but maybe we'll take questions from parents and then I'll come back to that question. Yeah. Yes, Shubha.
Hello. Actually, there is no current here, so I think my face will not be shown. And I like one point what you were saying, okay, industry, they go, there is some kind of dissatisfaction. In this, I wanted to ask one query. In industry or corporates, wherever we end up, there is something called target, something which involves a time-based completion. Does academia also have that kind of a scenario? Because most of the time, corporates or people who are there in industry get the kind of a dissatisfaction mainly due to the time pressure. Does academia also have that kind of a time pressure, or is it something? I mean, I wanted to know how academia is streamlined, basically.
So that's an excellent question, because what exactly is the target, and what exactly do we do? That's essentially what is being asked. Of course, so there are 2 points here. One is you need to establish a certain, so first off in academia, once you have got a job in academia, there is no boss. You have to decide what your targets are. You have to set your own things. But at the same time, you need to show that you are working. So you need to establish a certain credibility for yourself, because of course somebody, be it the government or the university, somebody is paying you to do your job. So the general target, or softly target, is that you try to publish papers in journals, in respectable journals, and different people will have different type of targets. Like for us, for example, for me, my target is, okay, write at least 2 papers in a year. So in order to do that, we strategize, in the sense we have some simple problems which can be, which we know which can be done, as well as they are important. But we also have some really deep, difficult problems which we attempt, but we don't know whether that can be done or not. Sometimes we get lucky, sometimes things don't work out. But even if you don't meet those targets, it's not like someone is going to be on you, because that's, yeah.
Okay.
Because you are at the end of the day, you are finally your boss. But maybe every 5 years they will have you will have to submit some kind of a report saying that you have done all this work. I mean, justifying your existence as a researcher, that requires, of course, that is required. And I think it also okay, here I should make a distinction. There's a difference between institutes and universities in India. In institutes, for example, where we are, already they hire people who have had like a reasonable training. So you don't really need to monitor their progress that minutely, because they're responsible enough. But in universities, it's a little more stringent, and sometimes they have a lot of pressure of publishing at a much higher rate, because of which the quality of their publications are also not at par, but there is a distinction. So of course, life is very different in institutes versus universities. Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe Siddhi can add something to that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So the point that I would like to add is that you mentioned that the dissatisfaction in corporate probably comes from the time pressure. So actually, the friends of ours who have gone into corporate, their dissatisfaction that they have shared with us comes from the monotonicity and the mechanical nature of the work. So the fact that in academia you have a lot of freedom to pursue problems that you find interesting, or problems that really challenge you, whereas sometimes in corporate it may happen that you have to work on what the client requires, and you have to come up with solutions where sort of, which may not require as much of thought in terms of the theoretical part, which is what you are trained in. So many of our friends have shared with us that that part gives them sort of more of dissatisfaction, and the time part, they just sort of say that we log in, but we finish one day's work in 2 hours. So
I don't agree with that. Yeah, monotony. Yeah, the freedom is restricted. I mean, you have a restricted freedom in corporate. So in academia, it's quite okay.
But perhaps, but perhaps there are these days also certain kinds of R&D in corporates which may be more open. Perhaps Microsoft Research, for example, I've heard some things where they are more open to the problems that you can pursue. But generally, I think the feedback that we have received is about this kind of a monotonicity or mechanical nature.
Thank you. I have one more question also. Who provides
Can we take it after? Keep your hand raised. We'll come back. Yes.
you.
So I had a small question on what Siddhi and Anup said, and feel free, either of you can comment on this. So the academia work that you spoke about is more from an institution where the professors are expected to pursue both research as well as teaching, right? It is, but that's not the case with every institution. There may be institutions and universities where more focus is on teaching and less is on research. So if I'm correct, it would also matter what your interest is. And you finish your PhD and you feel that, okay, I'm done and dusted with the research, I would like to continue teaching, then one may opt for a university that is more focused on teaching and less on research. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah. So in fact, these days there are a lot of liberal arts universities that are coming up. For example, in the South, I think Kriya University is something that is coming up. Ashoka University in Delhi is again one of these kind of universities. So there we know some of our friends who have done a PhD in math are now faculty in these universities, but they are more focused on the teaching aspect. So they don't insist on as strict requirements of research, but you really need to be able to teach well to a wide variety of students, because not necessarily everybody is there to pursue math. Since it's a liberal arts school, you might have students from different fields. So yeah, indeed, that is also a big possibility. On the other hand, there are these institutes such as TIFR, IMSc, HRI, where they do not have undergraduate programs, they only have PhD programs. So there the teaching is, there is teaching, but the teaching is to PhD students. And I think Anup can maybe say more about that since he's at IMS.
Yeah, like for me, in fact, there is no mandatory teaching. So this is a purely a research job. So the teaching that I do, I mean, I still teach more or less every semester, but it is because they want to teach, and the students are also at a PhD level. So then you can teach courses which one cannot learn from a book, for example. So that's a more exciting aspect of, I feel, my job, but that's a personal choice. Some people prefer not to teach. That's okay.
Okay. And Nidita's parents. Yeah.
Thanks, Anup and Siddhi, for the wonderful introduction. Gives us a good background as to how you started your journey. Our question is more on what's the base preparation that is required for someone to start thinking that they want to become a mathematician, right? Now, for example, Siddhi mentioned that there were quite a lot of competitive Ganit, various exams as she was growing up. We have courses which are run by Asram TP, the camps that are running here. So I think there is an element of say mentoring or nurturing the children to develop an interest, and that is something that comes from within, right? And all this have a role to play. Also, I also noticed that many of the students do JE coaching as well, which means it's another element to add to their build their competence, right? So uh, what are your views on how much of base building is required, how much needs to be self-driven, and how much is the role of mentors and doing courses or getting yourself to a stage where you think I can take so much of load, this is the path for me, and hence I want to go down this path. So we can share some light on that. That'll be helpful.
Yeah. So the first requisite, like prerequisite, is the student should really like doing math. And sometimes there are these impressions. Okay, if you are able to solve some problems, let's say in school or something, and somebody made some positive comments, and that sort of creates an impression. But beyond that, there are certain, but that may not always be the right impression. Unless you actually get exposed to maths at a competitive level, level, you may or may not have the right idea on whether you are cut out for this job. So of course, I feel that students, while growing up, they should do all these things, these IIT coaching, blah, blah, whatever is the mainstream things that people are pursuing, whether you are studying for these NEET exam or IIT exam, JEE exams, whatever. You should do all that, but that would not hamper the fact that you want to become a mathematician. But in that process, if you still really like to pursue mathematics, as Siddhi was mentioning, there are all these competitive exams that she went through. I also gave not as many as her, but there is one particular exam which is called the Mathematics Olympiads. So they have several levels. Earlier, they used to have what is called a regional mathematics Olympiad. If you get selected there, then you give what is called the Indian National Mathematics Olympiad. And if you get selected in that exam all over India, they call 30 students to Mumbai, train them, out of which 6 will go abroad to represent India in the international team. This is a government of India run exam, and it is very competitive. I think these days, because of COVID, the first level RMO has been replaced by another type of exam, which is called IOQM. However, I came through this particular trajectory. This is how I got introduced to math. Having said that, that is not the research math thing, but that is somewhat of an indication on whether you like solving puzzles in a layman's term, whether you like involving different branches of mathematics to solve one problem. If you are able to do that, then you get a different kind of happiness, and there's a different joy to it. If the student experiences that a few times, then he or she would know that they want to pursue this. And if the student really wants to pursue this, we would like to urge the parents to encourage that. Because it is not the case that if you do math, then your career options are fewer. In fact, it is more than what one would get these days as compared to doing an engineering or any other thing. So, of course, as you said, teachers, a proper training, all these things are essential. But all these things are essential, and there is no problem if one goes along with the usual things like the JEE training. They will also have quite a lot of math, etc., etc. So it's okay. It's at that level, it is okay. It is important that the student gives these exams such as these Olympiads, where not as much training is necessary. It is mostly testing whether you can create something from whatever you know. Usually the necessary background is very little, but if you are able to create something, the student would know. So certainly I mean, as you pointed out, the training has some value, but just do the mainstream training. I think that is good. That is good enough for usually for a career. And then the student would know what is happening, what process he or she is going through, what's happening. You want something to add, Siddhi?
Yeah, I'll add something. So 2 things that have helped me come here and maybe perhaps might also be helpful to others. One is I found an excellent mentor in Has Bhamre sir, who was from Nasik. I'm from Nasik, and so he was one of the persons who used to sort of get together lots of kids with similar interests and sort of give us books of various different math levels, and then we would all just sit down and solve problems. And that is how we started our training into preparing for the competitive exams. So and also his ideas about mathematics, about life, had a great impact on me, and he was one of the figures who really in very subconscious way sort of encouraged me to go towards the mathematics and sort of the thinking part of mathematics. So as I said, mentors, yes, definitely they play a very significant role. The other thing that also helped me were my peers. I had an amazing peer group. So there were, so Nashik is a small place. So all the students of my batch who were interested in doing something apart from the usual school routine syllabus, we are for some strange reason, our parents had a group. And so we had a group, and we would go and sit together at Bhamre sir's house, in fact, where he would play tabla and we would be solving problems. And that just continued through the years. From 5th standard, 6th standard, we were together, all the way up to 10th standard, we all were together. I think it was a group of 20-25 students. And so if one of us was feeling a little bit behind or unmotivated, the other sort of pushed us. And that closed-knit group was really important for me. And all of us were interested. So it was not just math. That also I think I should point out. We were interested in math mainly, but it was also just thinking, it was science, it was history, it was everything basically. So that I think built a point of view towards all subjects, whether it be school, and also I think it helped me in my life. So peers also, I think, are very important factor. And as Anup said, the mainstream teaching, it is sufficient. It's just that there is a tendency in certain JE coaching classes to involve you into rote learning. Rote learning is where they will just give you some 1,000 problems on the same topic of all possible types and ask you to solve the same 1,000 problems maybe 200 times so that all the answers are memorized. That is probably not helping you in training your thinking process. And if you don't think, then going forward, I think one will face difficulties in all aspects of life. So as long as kids are able to think, then they can do math, I think. So just that inculcating the love for puzzles and that love for thinking. So also I have seen some students in school where if you are able to sit down with a hard problem for 3 hours at a stretch without getting up to go to the bathroom or eat something or play with your friends, then that sort of starts giving you an idea that you are really into problem solving and you are really into thinking and you enjoy spending time with a problem. Then those are certain indications that pursuing math or pursuing academia might be a good choice for the student.
Thank you so much. I mean, those answers were quite elaborate. Nivedita's parents, did that answer your question? Okay, great. So there was one question in the chat. Hari, is it okay if we take that first and then come to you?
Yeah.
So we have Ovi's parents who asked, how do you select problems to work on? Because in the corporate, usually there are tasks and projects given. So how do you select problems to work on? Maybe you can also add, how does your typical day look like?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, and this is what I was mentioning a while ago, that it is sort of very hard to convey what we do because it is sort of difficult to express how do we select our problems. See, these things come from just experience. There is no recipe or there is no method of trying to find the right problems. And that experience comes through this PhD. I mean, the PhD program is expected to give you that experience. Once you know a lot of mathematics, just in a particular, I know only in a particular stream, but in a certain to a certain depth, then it's not just, these are not isolated problems. It's like it's like exploring an entire exploring an entire garden and trying to find some flowers from some corner. And there are certain corners where there are flowers, so you can always walk in and pluck something. And there are certain corners where you do not know, and that takes a bit of it's tenacity and some perseverance to pursue. So it is not I mean, that this is often like, okay, when I joined my PhD program, that time in the first year I was very unsure whether I can solve something which is not known before, whether I'm capable of doing that. And that seems to be it was not just with me, everybody had that issue. I mean, everybody is unsure of whether they can actually prove something new. But as I grew in the process, in 5 years, I noticed that everybody is doing something new, and I am also doing something new. And it's not as unreachable as it appears before you even start the journey. Once you are into it, then you will know, you will automatically know. Your experience will teach you what is the right problems, what are not the right problems. That's why you have an advisor during your PhD. That advisor will advise you, will slowly will tell you the right things at the right time, and then at the end of 5 years you know exactly how to go about it. At this point, to somebody who is uninitiated, there is no answer to this question on how do I choose my problems. Now I know enough, and I know that I can choose problems and I can do it. So there is no shortcut or no short answer to this. One has to go through the process. Like, if your kid goes through the process, then he will definitely be able to solve problems. That's my answer. Maybe Siddhi can say something more.
No, I think more or less you've answered it. Yeah. How you? Oh, it's like when you study, or when you do PhD, and when you are studying, or when I am studying, for example, you just sort of go deeper and deeper, and then it is almost as if you are blind. You are in a room and you are trying to walk, and so it is after you have been in that situation for long enough, your brain, or you yourself, get trained. The surrounding, the people around you, the previous mathematics that has been done, your study of it, all that will train you how to find problems. And we don't actually, to be honest, go looking for problems. So as an academician, a lot of your time is spent in studying. So my parents, in fact, when I go home, are like, you are always studying. I mean, you started studying in school and you are still studying. So we in that process of study, the problems come to you naturally. There are certain natural, if x is true, okay, what about x prime? What about x minus y? What about x plus alpha? So all these kind of related problems show up. Some of them would be known, some of them will be new, and some of them you will have no idea how to proceed. But maybe one of them will be such that something that you had learned 10 years ago will come back to you, and that might be helpful. So then you try to proceed in that direction, and you see how much you can go. Maybe you cannot prove x plus alpha, but you can prove x plus alpha minus 1. Okay, you are happy that you did some progress, and that is what you publish. So we don't really start with, okay, you want to prove Fermat's last theorem, and then you do that. So that I hopefully gives some clarity.
You didn't say how does your day look like? I mean, what do you?
Every day is different. Okay. So during the semester, our semesters are usually from August to November end, and January to April end. During the semester, I teach in CMI, one course every semester. So that is twice a week, 1.5 hours each. For a 1.5 hour lecture, usually there is a 3 hour long preparation. Actually, if you're teaching an advanced course, it is usually 6 hours long preparation. So if I have to teach on a particular day, then I usually teach at 11:50 to 1. That's my favorite slot. I wake up early in the morning, probably around 4:30 or 5, and spend about 1 hour in trying to understand what I'm going to be doing for the lecture. Then we have our usual morning chores, and about 7:30 or so, I go to CMI, Anup goes to IMSC. Then again, I have half an hour which I can spend on organizing the lecture. Then there will be breakfast. I go quickly have breakfast in the CMI canteen, come back. Then all the way until 11:50, I'm completely immersed in preparing for the lecture. And I don't even pick up calls from my parents. And they are always angry about it, but it is what it is. And then 11:50 to 1 is my lecture. And usually 1 to 1:15 or 1:30 students have some questions. So it goes into that. Then I have lunch in the CMI canteen. Then in the afternoon until 3 o'clock, there is some time. Either I will meet a student or I will look at some papers that I have to either referee or review. There might be some administrative jobs. Then there is coffee. Then you come back. Maybe there is a talk. There's a seminar talk. Seminar talks keep happening every now and then. So you go attend a talk on listening to other people's research. And then you come back home in the evening and prepare dinner if you are up to it, or one disclaimer. Another disclaimer is that in our case, the daily cooking, a lot of the responsibility is taken by my husband. So thanks to him for that. And we both will be in the kitchen and he will be preparing the food. And then we have dinner and we listen to music, discuss, relax, and go to sleep. So that's roughly how my day looks like. Anup has an interesting addition to his day. So Anup.
My day is more or less the same, except I don't always have teaching. So I meet my PhD student, and if some other students are hanging around, and I play tennis every day. So that's the only extra addition.
Wow, I think some parents would be thinking, okay, my corporate job is better. I get more time out of this.
That may actually very well
that
be
is true. That is
By
true.
the way, it may seem that because we are in control of what we need to do, so it is possible to have this impression that we are less busy. That is not true. We are actually a lot more busy. When our friends visit us, they are really annoyed that these guys are always busy working. So it is not always true that if things are in your control, then you I mean, of course, you can choose not to do anything. That's a different story, but that's not how it usually works out. Yeah.
And also, we don't have a 9-to-5 job. So that is why our work can spill over to any time. So it has to be, so for us, in fact, it has been a challenge which we are slowly learning how to overcome. How do you keep aside time for family? Because there is no, we don't have to give our attendance in either of our institutes. It is all up to us. In that way, it is good because I can work early morning when I want and not necessarily in CMI. But on the other hand, even if my parents are visiting, I am working. Or even if some other personal issue needs to be handled, I am working. In fact, if you are engrossed in a problem, then you can be cooking food and you can still be thinking about the problem. So the mental work that goes in does not have any boundaries of time. And sometimes that can be more draining than a corporate job. So yeah, so that time thing, we are definitely sometimes super busy, so much so that we don't get enough time to talk to each other. But hopefully we will change that in the coming years.
Wow. Thank you so much. Hari, over to you, your question. Hari, are you there? Otherwise, I'll take another question. Alright, so I remembered the question that,
Yes.
yes, Hari, yeah, please.
Hi, Siddhi. Hi, Anup. Fantastic discussion on your daily life and what you have done as a researcher or what you're doing as a researcher. I was just curious about understanding from you both the importance of framing questions. So usually in our journey as students, we are taught or we learn the art of problem solving. So someone gives a problem and we learn the art of solving problems. But my understanding of how researchers go about their work or what PhD is about asking questions. That may not be necessarily true. I don't know if it is true in mathematics, but in other fields, it might be the case that you're required to ask questions. So how do you develop that ability to ask questions? Was it difficult for you if you were required to develop that skill?
Yes, that's an important point, and asking the right questions is actually what if by the end of your PhD you know how to ask the right questions, then your PhD is a success. And how does one go about developing it? There is no shortcut really. You have to just study a lot. You have to understand what has been done until this point and how things developed, in what progression did things happen, how a certain truths explored when people didn't know about it, what caused it to develop, things like that. It's and then slowly you would understand. Sometimes you even understand, okay, this person was able to prove something or discover something new because of these reasons, because maybe he was thinking about this, doing this, and because of that he needed this and somehow got the idea to do this. So it's a very organic process. It's and then during your PhD, you are expected to learn a lot so that by the end of your PhD, you know how to ask right questions. Now, where to start and how to proceed, that requires a mentor. And that's why PhD is done under a supervisor, an experienced person who has already gone through these this process. So the person can suggest you some reading material or certain place to start with. And then slowly you organically develop the ability to ask right questions that are easy, which are which are not challenging enough, certain questions which are slightly more interesting, and things like that. That's how you develop. But that is precisely what that can be another answer for what is done during a PhD, and it absolutely applies for math as well. Yeah.
Yeah, so to add to what Anup said, during a PhD and in fact during our research experience, one develops an intuition. So actually, to begin with, we just ask questions. So to not care about whether it's the right question or wrong question, just ask a question, and that comes just out of our natural curiosity. If we are curious about things, but then our training and our intuition, which has developed over the years, will give you an idea whether the question is hard, whether that question is solvable, whether it is worth pursuing. So in the beginning, I used to ask my advisor just any question that came to my mind. And then slowly through his answers, I think I got a better idea of what questions can be pursued and what questions are interesting and what questions are perhaps not so interesting. So I think that's more from experience.
Okay, thank you, Siddhi and Anup. There were questions that came on chat. One from Nivedita's parents is, and then this is for Siddhi. So, did you face any challenges being a woman in STEM? And if so, how did you overcome it? Is there any tips that you can give to?
Thank you for asking this question. It's a very important point, and I hope there are many parents of girls in this interaction session. So I really want to make this point here. The first answer to your question is no. In fact, I did not even feel that I am a girl doing mathematics and that is something odd or out of place until I came to CMI. But even then, the only indication was that I was one of the two girls in my batch. And the other was pursuing CS and I was pursuing math. So in a sense, I was the only girl in the math batch at CMI. But even then, my gender, apart from the fact that I was living in a different sort of wing than the boys, it's just never really occurred to me that it is something different that I am doing. But it's when I, as a PhD student, and then later on in my career, interacted with other women, I came to know that some of them indeed face certain challenges being a woman. So, for example, something like their pregnancy was when they were a postdoc, when they did not have a job. And then that created certain challenges for them. Something like, how do I apply for a job when I am on a maternity leave, etc. But these are certain specific kind of challenges that many of them faced. And nowadays, as we have more and more awareness about these things, there are systems in place to address these challenges. So, for instance, there is so to get a job in the usual government institutes setup, generally the entry level position age cutoff is 35. But suppose you have a kind of a break in between, especially if you're a woman and you have gone through a maternity leave, etc., then that cutoff becomes 40 for you. So these kind of things are in place to address these challenges. So also there are certain probably other kinds of challenges that they might have faced, but overall, from my personal perspective, I did not face anything. And whatever challenges were faced by me were more coming from just me being a person in math. I think my challenges would have been different, and maybe Anup faced some challenges, but it was not coming out of any being a woman kind of thing. So earlier there were very few women in math. This is true statistically, but now as we see very often, the number of women in math is increasing. And I think one should look at that positive aspect rather than focus on the fact that there are few women in math. So, I mean, generally women started receiving education late. So you cannot expect equality at this stage. But what one should look at is how fast are women being integrated into the mathematical community. And that rate is quite high. We have a lot of women PhD students coming into our institutes whom we train, and then also women who are doing postdocs, and then women who are getting jobs. So all these numbers are increasing. So you do not have to tell your girls anything different about being a woman or being a girl pursuing a subject which is not traditionally pursued by girls. Even in engineering, something like mechanical engineering does not get many girls, but that is fine. I mean, things are changing, and as long as your interests and your passion and your abilities are aligned towards what you want to do, you should just go ahead and just sort of ignore these kind of ideas about whether there is something different about me or wrong about me that I am in this field, male dominated field, nothing like that. And by the way, in CMI, when I was studying, I was not taught by a single female faculty, although there are female faculty, but not a single time did I face that I am getting any different treatment, either positively special or negatively special. Uh, so I think mathematics is a particularly nice field. People are very nice. So no worries about your goods.
Thank you for the reassurance, Siddhi. I had a follow-up question, but I know that parents have a question. So I'll just put this question. You need not answer it now. When Anup is talking, maybe you can put that in the chat. So if girls are not facing, or rather, at least in your experience, you did not face that kind of a challenge, but some do. So if you can tell us, maybe you can again put it in the chat. What is the role in that case for all these math camps and math contests for girls, specifically for girls? Then what is the role of those programs, and why do you think, I mean, you yourself are championing one of the programs, so why do we need that? But I think we can take Shubha's question, and you can even put or we can talk offline as well. Yeah, Shubha.
I'm just curious to know, in industry, while choosing problems, generally in industry, the problems are chosen based on market gaps, market needs, and the demand. So in mathematics, when you choose a problem, do you really look into the application point of view, or is it just the excitement and the passion that just makes you to work on a problem?
So
Or
that is
identify a problem?
that's a good question. That's a good question. There is a separate branch which is called applied mathematics. And if you, so there is, so just to start on a funny note, if you talk to pure mathematicians, they will frown upon applied mathematics because it's not mathematics in their opinion. So you see, in the entire purpose itself is different. Like the purpose of mathematics, purpose of a market, or a purpose of an industry is to sell an object or sell a software, or you know, to make or support a particular system in place. So there is some kind of an economy involved there. But in this field, the mathematics, the science that we are doing, it is purely based on, you know, the intellectual economy. There is at least for me, I am not concerned about making someone else rich, making an industry grow, or, you know, that is not my purpose. My purpose is intellectual economy. Like, as a civilization, by the end of my life, we should know more than what we do right now, and I should have made some contribution towards that. And so the entire way we look at things would become different then. So it's not exactly application in the sense of, you know, making someone else grow, or enabling other people to get jobs, or, you know, something of that aspect in the physical sense. But there is certainly application, like overall, there will be some intellectual growth. And at the same time, I also believe in one other thing when we do mathematics. Of course, it's not like we are just randomly picking problems and we are doing it. As I mentioned earlier, it's an organic process. It grows very organically. And I feel every mathematics which is developed, if it doesn't have application today, it will have application in future. For sure. There are like certain really difficult parts of mathematics, which if one explains to you, you would think what gibberish are these guys talking about? But we are seeing applications of those type of mathematics now, maybe not to a great extent, but it has started appearing. I mean, there are some really difficult parts of mathematics which 50 years ago we wouldn't have thought has application. So these type of, and there are so many examples of that kind, that I feel what we do will certainly have application, maybe in the next 200 years or so. But again, that is not the purpose, and that is not what drives us. So somehow the perspective is a little bit different.
Automatically, your thoughts are all ahead.
So, but I hope that answers your question. But it's a okay. Having said that, I think it's a happy life. I mean, I'm very happy in doing whatever I'm doing. So after all, that is what.
To see both of you, such blissful faces. It's really great to see. Thank you. I would also like to get her point of view.
So, as Anup said, we ourselves don't focus on industry problems. However, what I would mention is that from CMI's perspective, we have theoretical computer scientists at CMI. But so CMI is situated in a IT park. So it is kind of contradictory that we as pure mathematicians are situated in an IT park. But we do have projects from some of the surrounding firms who approach us with their problems and ask us if we can help out. But that is again from computer science perspective, or more of those kind of questions, not from a pure math perspective. Also, currently CMI has signed a sort of understanding with the government of Tamil Nadu, where we will be helping them collate the data of people from their. How do you sort out people's data from different sources? So you have a data from driving license, you have the data from Aadhaar card, you have certain different data from ration card, but you don't want these to be independent. You want sort of a collected place of information, and so this is one of the ways where we are helping out in the real life, so to say. But I am not involved in it because, as he said, applied math. So
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Right. So I had a question earlier, which I missed and I recollect now. So as a research scholar, so by the time you finish your PhD, postdoc, it's not the, I mean, it's kind of maybe in the late 20s that you would actually start working on a job per se, right? I mean, somebody who's pursuing their PhD and postdoc. And this could be one of the concerns and questions that parents could have, that what about, when do you start earning, and how can you be a little, or at least take care of yourself financially. So if you can share something about what's the kind of financial support one gets while they are pursuing PhD. I mean, I'm sure at CMI, I think some parents already know at CMI, if a student comes for undergrad, there is no fee for the first 35 students. It's completely free of cost. Their food accommodation is taken care of. In fact, students get stipend at undergraduate level as they are pursuing undergraduation. So these are very uncommon things that one gets in CMI as compared to other undergrad person. But while they are pursuing PhD or postdoc, what is the kind of financial support that you get, and if there are some ballpark figures that you can give for what support you get in top institutes in India, if they are somebody is pursuing PhD or postdoc.
before Anup starts answering, I just wanted to mention here that both Anup and I have stopped taking money from our parents for education ever since school. So in school we had scholarships thanks to Government of India and other organizations. In 11th and 12th, similarly, there were some competitive exams which gave you some monetary prize or etc. CMI, it was absolutely blissful because we got fellowships. Also at an undergraduate level, we have there was KVPY, which was Kishore Vaigyanik Protsahan Yojana, which gave you a fellowship. Now there is the Inspire program from Government of India. I myself got the stipend from Inspire, from CMI. But CMI also offers scholarship of rupees 5,000 per, I don't know, rupees 5,000. two selected students, which that number is quite large. And then when we went abroad for masters and PhD, we went there on scholarship. And then during postdoc, of course, we were getting paid. So the financial independence in that sense, I mean, we are, it is from a long time. But Anu, why don't you answer in detail?
Yeah, I think what you were asking is are the you know the estimated figures of how much money we make while being a PhD student and a postdoc and things like that. So yeah, first to take up your point, like getting a job in late 20s in India, that already is very young. Actually, both of us are super lucky that we got it while we were still like 28 or so. But then it is generally people land their first job in academia in early 30s, 31, 32 is the usual thing. But during your PhD abroad, of course, the stipends are a little bit higher when you just when you convert them in Indian rupees. But here, like for example, if a person is pursuing a PhD in IMSC, where I am, there I think the starting stipend for a PhD student is about 34,000 rupees, and plus you get all these incentives like you get some travel money to go abroad, and you get some money to buy books, which is in the order of like some 1 lakh rupees per year or something like that, to buy books, and the travel is completely funded by the institute. And there are these perks, plus your medical is covered and your accommodation is covered, and those type of things you get. In a typical institute, like in TIFR or in IMC, this is the case. So, but like after covering all this, your scholarship would be in the range of 30 to 35,000. That's the thing for PhD student. And for a postdoc, I think right now the figures are close to 70,000 or something is how much we are paying a postdoc per month. This is all per month. And plus additionally, they will have these other perks like some travel money to go here and there, some grants to buy books, etc., etc. So this is the general figure. But of course, if a person goes to do a postdoc abroad, then abroad things are, you get paid much more. I mean, the university, again, it's just the living standards, you know, the particular city has so certain cities you require more money to survive. So if you go to MIT, for example, they will pay you $80,000 in a year. But if you go to some other place, it might be 60,000. Things like that. Depends on where you go. So it's you can support yourself, but if you want to build a house with that money, that is not enough. That's the short answer. Yeah.
Also regarding scholarships, so Inspire is at the BSc level. At the Masters and PhD level, there is something called the NBHM scholarship. It is given by National Board for Higher Mathematics. There is an exam that one has to qualify, after which there is an interview. And if you qualify the interview, then you are given the scholarship. Offhand, I do not know how much the scholarship pays, but it pays a little bit more than what you would normally get. So that is something that is there as a scholarship. Okay, sorry, I just read the chat, and yes, it is much more fun to live in Chennai than actually anywhere in US it says College Station. That's where one of the universities is, and State College is where I did my postdoc, which is an absolutely lonely place, and they pay you very less, by the way. But it is okay because you are in the middle of nowhere and you don't have any way to spend that money. Anyways, so coming back to scholarships, so there is Inspire, there is NBHM, and at the postdoc level, there are special postdocs which you can apply for. One is called the NPDF, which is the national PDF. One is called the SERB grant. There is also the Inspire Fellowship, which is offered at post-PhD level, which gives you which promises you money for 5 years at a level of an assistant professor, but it is not a permanent position, which you can take up at an institute of your choice. So there are several opportunities. There are many scholarships available in India when you are pursuing, when you academics, PhD.
Thank you, thank you. So it's really reassuring to hear all this, and I'm sure parents will also be happy to know that okay, they will get square meal a day, and they can do really well in their lives by pursuing life in the academy as well, if they choose that to be the case. So, I mean, I was just reminded of, sorry, this is off the conversation, but I was talking to Professor Karandikar today, the ex-director of CMI. So he was saying there were two siblings, one brother after the other, who, the first one, he got into one of the top IITs and things like that, but then he chose CMI over that, and the father was furious, how you can make something like this. And then he told, Professor Karandikar was also there, he told in front of him that if he does not get a job, then it's his fault, but maybe we'll support him. We have that both parents were doctors, so they said we'll have to support their entire life. And then this guy, once he finished his undergraduation, the father was floored to see the kind of college. I mean, he wanted to do a PhD, so the kind of offers that he started getting from some of the top universities, and also full scholarship and other things for various things. So he was kind of completely floored by that. And his second son also pursued his undergraduation here at CMI. And then he ensured that after that, he was like, he volunteered something like a brand ambassador to tell parents that, well, it's a great place to be, and math CS is something that you can really pursue. So I was just reminded of that while we were, you both were sharing. Sorry, I just went a little off track. There doesn't seem to be more questions in the chat, but I think that parents may be having some questions in their mind. But nevertheless, we have already shot over time. So if I can just summarize a few main points that both of you covered. So one is it's not just that you have job prospects if you take up math, but you have better job prospects if you take up math, both in the industry and academia. And it's completely fine if you are unsure of what you want to do in future. You can just go by the next best thing to do, and things will start getting more clear. And of course, financially, it is quite secure to pursue research if that is your calling. And pursue by all means things in the mainstream, but do not be pressurized by what the majority is doing, and don't come under that peer pressure and take something that you may want to do. And to parents, encourage children to pursue math if that is what they really like to do. And women have a very secured place in STEM. So by all means, girls, if they want to pursue STEM, they should pursue STEM. And if there are any closing, what I can say, advice, so to say, that either of you would like to give to the parents of these students who are deeply passionate about mathematics and who eat, breathe, and think math along with other disciplines. So if there is any bit of anything, so you can say, otherwise we can take a pause. We can, yeah.
No, there is no advice that I can give. I'm too young to give advices. But just one thing, that if you have a kid and the kid really enjoys solving problems, or enjoys mathematics, then please do not stop the person from pursuing mathematics, because the joy that you get by discovering something new, I do not think you can get that joy in through any other way, be it money, be it success, in whatever sense of the word. There is a different, it's a completely different experience. So please, if your kid has it in him or her, then please encourage and support however it is possible to do that.
First of all, thank you to all the parents that already, I think by sending your kids to Epsilon, there is one step that you have taken in encouraging them towards mathematics. So thank you for that, and please keep doing so. I don't have advices, but there are certain things which have helped me, and so I'll just share that towards the end with you. One is that although mathematics is our passion, it is our profession, it is a part of our life. It is not our entire life. So if your kids have hobbies, then it is all the more important when you are trying to pursue mathematics to have those hobbies. The reason is that mathematics as a journey is very enjoyable, but it is solitary. It is you, your theorem, and your research. And although both Anup and I do almost a similar kind of mathematics, very often we both are sitting at our own desks doing our own work for hours. So with that solitary kind of a journey, there are bound to be certain phases where you may feel yourself to be low, or you may find yourself struggling, in which case if you have a hobby, that is kind of your safe place to go to, your escape in any way. And it need not even be escape. We know of several mathematicians who are amazing. One is an amazing piano player, one is a very dedicated marathon runner, one is into mountain climbing, one is into surfing. So these kind of things also help us into stepping away from our mathematics, so that when we come back refreshed. And these kind of activities help us to remain sane. So if your kids are lucky enough to have these hobbies, please encourage them to do and keep those hobbies for their life. They are going to be their saving graces when the theorem doesn't work out, because mathematics is in that sense a little cold. If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. There is nothing that is going to save you there. There is no cuddling that happens. So it's important to have some music, books, dancing, going out, just something else in your life which may help you find meaning. So please don't try to make the kids just a mathematician. A mathematician will be only successful if they are all rounded. So that is the only important point, and that's the place where I'd like to end. That's it.
Wow, wow. Oh, what better words to conclude? I mean, there is no better words to conclude this session. So well said, Siddhi. I mean,
No,
really...
it's just something that we have realized. So also because we have been in CMI, and I am now teaching in CMI, and I see students when they come for undergrad, that many a times they are very passionate about math, and they have spent a lot of time training themselves in math. But living alone is a challenge. It's hard. When nobody's taking care of you, it is hard. When you fail in an exam, because just because you are smart doesn't mean you won't fail, because there is always 10 people who are smarter than you. So please, it's very important for the kids to know that failure is okay. Getting low marks on an exam is okay, and that's not the end of the world, and that you should take that as a learning experience. Especially now, several kids are facing a lot of mental health issues, And we as faculty are not equipped to give them the support because uh, we are trained as mathematicians, not as counselors. But I think if from the parents' side, if they themselves make their kids or sort of in some way instill the kids to become strong human beings, then the mathematics kind of takes care of itself. So yeah, anyway, so that's it. So those words were from my experience and from my heart. So that's it. It's not meant as an advice or anything.
I mean, these are golden words, and I'm sure this will stay etched in our hearts. Thank you so much. Thank you so very much, Siddhi and Anu. In fact, my special thanks, like Hari was saying, we reached out to you today morning, and you have been kind, and you know that this is a very busy time period for both of you, but they were really kind to have this session for all of us, and I'm sure it was an equally thrilling experience, you know, as for all of you as much as it was for me to interact with both of them. Thank you so much, and we look forward to have you know, continued association with both of you, and we hope that our children can come and learn from you in future as well. Not just the mathematics part, but as humans, as wonderful humans you both are. So thank you once again on behalf of all of us at Raising a Mathematician Foundation in Epsilon, India.
Thanks
A
Vinay,
lot.
for having us.
Yeah, thanks a lot for patiently listening to us. Yes, and also it was very nice to see you all. And yes, so that's thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.
We have a couple of minutes, Siddhi and Anup, if you can stay back, just 2 minutes.